It's time to check your money with America's Money Vape. Can't talk. It's time to check your money with America's Money Maven, Vicki Brackens. Vicki Brackens is the president of Brackens Financial Solutions Network, LLC, and a registered representative of LPL Financial, member SIPC. Vicki is in the house.
Thank you, George. My return always feels so sweet.
Yes.
The way you say that. Wow. Okay.
Vicki is in the house. Listen, tomorrow is the unofficial start of summer.
That's right.
You got a cookout planned or anything like that?
I'm trying to make sure I don't have to burn wood just to stay warm.
Baby, are you kidding? Like what? What are we doing here? Right? I mean,
listen, I love my central New York, believe me. Okay, but it's a little chilly. Okay,
little bit.
Okay, I forgot to take. I have clients all over the country, and I forgot to take off my coat
Uh,
so that they wouldn't know. And they looked at it because I have people down in Florida. They said, "Vicki, what is that you're wearing?" I said, "Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, I still got my coat on." Okay, but yes, okay. It hopefully we won't have to use that fire to stay warmed.
oh, baby.
That for the cook up.
Oh no, that's right. Right. That we could just do our burgers and hot dogs.
That would be great.
Right.
By the way, are the Q's having their Q fry this year?
Yes, we are. It's going to be August the. Nah, see, you messed around and make me forget the date, but it's going to be August 9th.
August 9th. Where's your location this year?
Ryder Park in DeWitt.
Still in DeWitt.
Yeah, we're still in DeWitt. Ryder Park.
Okay. All right. That's one of my favorite events for the summer. So I want to make sure I get it on the calendar. Tell everybody who's listening today, August 9th.
The Q Fry. And the Q Fry,
okay.
It's our way of saying thank you to the community. So yeah. And
absolutely.
Now usually it's kind of on the low, the invitation. So we
just blasted out to about 50,000 people.
It's okay because you know what? We love our community and we want to thank our community for their support.
Good. Okay, we'll make sure everybody in the community is prepared to, pay a little bit to help the Q Fry and make sure that we have a nice fundraiser at the same time.
As a matter of fact, on the low, we do ask for a contribution to the Donnell Hicks Memorial Book Scholarship Fund. So we provide scholarships, book scholarships and also not academic, but financial scholarships as well. And then we also provide book scholarships. So it's a little bit different than, the book scholarship is a little lesser amount, but we try to do some good stuff.
Well, I know that the Hicks family and your fraternity have been this at least 20 years as far as I can remember. Okay, with the Q Fry.
Yeah.
But you gave me a perfect transition into our subject for this week because you said this was for book scholarships.
Yes.
And I want to spend some time, and I know everybody's going to say, Vicki, why are you doing this again? Well, there's been some major updates that have happened relative to what's happening with student loan debt repayment that we cannot ignore because the debt repayment process has now kicked into full gear. If you recall, George, there was a time frame during COVID that under an administrative order during the Biden administration, student loan repayment was frozen, and we had no loan repayment going on during COVID, and the interest payments and so forth were frozen, and things were basically in limbo. And then following that, there was I would call a purging of the public loan service forgiveness program to correct many of the uncounted periods of loan repayment. So hundreds and thousands of people actually had their loans not necessarily forgiven, but corrected so that the stipulations that were part of the public service loan forgiveness program applied to them and their loans were actually retired. Then there was a time period where there was talk of, and President Biden and the Biden administration tried to actually forgive many of the student loans, but certain states, particularly my old home state, Texas, filed lawsuits against the executive order in order to cancel those loans, and those loans went through a court proceeding, and finally they were never ever forgiven, and they're still on the books. Well, we come into the new administration. I'm just trying to give everybody kind of a framework.
But some people did get their loans forgiven.
Oh, yeah. Under the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program, millions of people, thousands, there was a tremendous amount of loan forgiveness. And that was not necessarily forgiveness. And the reason I say it that way is that when individuals participated and signed up for the Public Student Loan Forgiveness Program, there were stipulations that they had to follow.
Mm-hmm.
They had to work for a not-for-profit institution, a 501c3 institution. They had to complete 120, basically 10 years of on-time payments.
Mm-hmm.
But the student loan servicing organizations that were responsible for keeping those records was atrocious.
Right.
There was like a handful, I mean, literally out of the millions, a handful of individuals who actually ever had their loans forgiven. So what the administration did was actually go in and have those records purged and corrected.
Mm.
And then that, by doing that, thousands of people who should have been either forgiven already or close to it were found, and those payments were forgiven. And in some cases, I even had some clients who got money back.
Really?
They had overpaid.
Mm.
But they were, but the records were so shoddily handled over years. It was over 10 years that they had not been granted the forgiveness that they had earned. But then there was a second level of forgiveness, the true forgiveness, where the administration was trying to forgive a certain segment of student loans through executive action, and that went to court. And that was never implemented. In fact, if you recall, there were 2 or 3 time periods where we got notice that student loan repayment was going to restart, and then they stopped it and they moved it out and said, no, it's going to, because they were still in court action. But now, those loans that were not forgiven under executive order are the loans that we're talking about at this point in time. Okay. So what's happened?
Right.
Well, as of May 5th, which is about 10 days ago now, 10, 20 days ago, student loan repayment is in full force again. And those individuals who have delinquent loans, and what delinquency basically is 90 days or more overdue, are being informed by the Department of Education, that's not supposed to exist, but by the Department of Education,
right,
that their loans are being called due immediately. And everyone who has a delinquent student loan or a student loan, here is what I am recommending that you do. Do not ignore these orders that are coming through. You probably received paperwork that shows that you are either in delinquency or what your current loan payment is, especially if you graduated recently, what that is. Do not ignore this, because I can guarantee you, of the 5 million or so accounts, there's like 5 million accounts that are in delinquency right now, that every nickel is going to be looked for through some very stringent actions, either garnishment of wages, collection of your income tax returns, judgments, all types of debt repayment options that are very, very stringent and are not going to be, there's not going to be what I would consider any kind of leeway, at least currently, around those individuals. In fact, what we have started to see is that in the case where we have, as I said, about 5 million at this point in time, loans that are overdue or in a delinquency spot right now, that really accounts for about $1.6 trillion. Federal government is looking for that $1.6 trillion. That's a loan default rate of about 8%. You say, well, 8% is not a lot, Vicki. You're right, if we think of it that way, but the traditional number is about 1%. That typically of individuals who are in default status. I reviewed some information from TransUnion, which shows the average score for individuals affected by this default rates has dropped to roughly 63 points as far as your credit rating is concerned. But even more alarming, research is showing that prime borrowers, and you remember prime borrowers, that term, George?
Yeah.
Those are the people who have A1 credit,
Right.
prime
The
borrowers.
best. Exactly. That's your
Yes.
top tier.
Top tier. Top tier borrowers who have student loans in default are seeing an average of drop in their credit rating of about 175 points.
So we're talking 800
down to 579.
Wow.
And think about what 579 does to your credit rating. Okay?
The highest interest you can possibly find.
The highest interest you can possibly find. Okay. And you also have to realize that credit reports are used for employment records now. A lot of institutions, a lot of employers, when just before they give you the offer, or on a contingency basis after the offer, are running credit reports, and you drop it into 579, that offer is going to get pulled because it says all kinds of negative things about your responsibility levels, your mortgage rates, of course, your car loan rates, of course, but also your insurance rates, meaning your homeowner's insurance, in some cases, even your life insurance, could be negatively impacted by having your credit score down in the 570 range. Okay. So this aggressive collection process, as I said, including garnishment and refund interceptions. And oh, by the way, it seems that the southern states have a higher level of delinquency versus the northern states. And I was thinking, why is that?
And you gonna tell me why?
I'm gonna tell you why, okay? Because unfortunately, when you start to break down the delinquency rates by race, what we are seeing is that the highest level of debts and delinquency fall smack dab into the Black male, Black female categories. And I said, okay, why is that? Well, here's the thing. We always talk about Black women have the highest level of educational attainment, right? You hear that all the time.
Oh, you hear it all the time.
Okay, and the D9, we are proud of that. Okay,
right.
That our level of educational attainment between Black men and Black women, particularly Black women, is the highest that there is. But how are we paying for it?
Yeah,
is the question. Okay, so if you think about the way it's being financed, and that our average borrowing is almost 2 times the level of the rest of the population. And so if we get into default, we've got twice the level of debt that's in default. So what we're seeing in the numbers is that about 43%, George, 43% of Black women have attained their college degrees through high levels of student loan debt. That also means, and then if you have a couple, it's like 32% for Black men. So it is logical that you would also have higher default rates in those two particular categories. What's even more concerning for me, though, is that I'm going to see if I can say this the right way. One of the reasons we want higher education is what?
Well, because we believe that is the pathway to higher income.
For what purpose?
You tell me.
For what purpose is of greater net worth?
Okay, I mean, I was just I didn't know where you were going with that.
Yeah, okay. So it's a way to and that catch-all phrase that we talk about all the time, generational wealth and so forth.
All right,
but
generational
you cannot pass generational wealth when the debt level is so high.
And also, Vicki, when you think about it, some of the professions that are the most rewarding in terms of your net worth, right out the gate, have very high loan, components to them.
Absolutely. So
right.
if we're financing it through high levels of debt, and as you said, some of the professions, so some of your engineering,
legal,
medical, okay, dental, all of the areas concerning your PhD work you're coming out at $140,000 to $200,000 in debt.
Right.
Then the ability to move forward is being held back by the debt levels.
We
Now,
talk-
am I saying, listen to me here carefully, am I saying don't go to school? Did I say anything like that, George?
I didn't hear you say anything about that.
Okay. Did I say that we did not want to attain these degrees?
You didn't say that either.
I said we needed to structure the way we're doing it better.
Yeah, was it you and I that were having a conversation about what you should think about in terms of your level of income and the payback structure and the window by which you do that? Were you and I having that conversation?
Yes, we were. Okay.
Okay.
One of the things that I was really looking at is always keep in mind, yeah, because I think National College Decision Days is right on top of us. Keep in mind.
Yeah. Well, everybody's pretty much decided now by now.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Keep in mind the profession that you are trying to attain the degree for. Will it support the debt level?
Right.
Okay. If it will not support the debt level, then you got to either make your mind up that I need to have another kind of career attainment, or find a way to augment my income as quickly as I possibly can to drive the debt level down. Okay, so that you don't either have to borrow so much, or if you do have high levels of debt coming out, what's going to be the plan to get out of debt in 5 to 7 years?
That's what I was waiting for you to say. That's what
5 to 7 years.
That's
okay?
right.
It's what we want. Which means sacrifice, folks.
Yeah. Delay
gratification.
Yeah.
As far as, fine. I'm out of school. I really want to live alone, but you already learned how to live with others. Stay with others. Get rid of that debt. Okay. I'm out of school. I would really like the car, but drive the one that you've been driving before until it dies. Get out of the debt. Okay. I'm out of school. I would really like to travel the world right now. Okay, but you don't have to do it in first class. You're still young. You still have the opportunity and the wherewithal. Okay. But get a plan to tackle that debt so that 5 to 7 years it's gone. And what's really nice, George, right now is that with life expectancy stretching, when we were coming out, looking at like, oh man, I'm gonna be 40 soon. I'm gonna be 50 soon.
Right.
Okay. And that's the end of the line. Life expectancy is stretching into the 90s now. So sacrificing that first 5 to 7 to really get out of debt means you have a lot of years ahead of you that you don't have this ball and chain dragging you down, preventing you from doing the things that are really necessary in life to build your wealth and build the wealth of your communities and for your families. Please, I would love to talk to you. I don't say this often, like, okay, but I would love for you to call me or reach out at info@brackensfsn.com. In fact, I'll take 3 or 4 or 5 people. We sit around the table over coffee and really have some heart-to-heart conversations. If you're already in school, how to avoid making it worse. If you're out of school, how to get out of it and get out of debt levels like this for 5 to 7 years. But most of all, you cannot run.
That's
computers
the bottom
are
line.
tied together.
Yeah.
Computers, it's not like the old days. I can tell you some stories. Not like that anymore. Okay. Computers are tied together so closely that you cannot outrun.
Well, not only that, people are documenting their every moves in social media. So it ain't even about, you don't have to run. They can just go.
They can just go to your social media page, right?
Right. Oh, he over there now. Oh, okay.
Exactly. So don't think that you can get around this anymore. George, you have any questions that I need to clear up before I close out here?
Well, no, I was basically just like you said, whether they're in school now, they just got out of school, or going into a grad program, I do think it's important to have this conversation, right? Because for many people, they may have already, if they've planned and they've executed and they're debt free, great. But we know that that's not the majority of people.
No, that's not the majority. Okay, that is not the majority. Okay. In fact, I was also looking at that right now. The statistics are showing that about 60% of students, Black students in particular, who are still in debt, don't have savings accounts.
Mm.
They don't have savings accounts because between the debt servicing, which by the way is going to go up, because if you're in default, you got all those back defaulted payments, but you have other things that you haven't really caught up on. So here's a resource for everyone. I want you to make sure you use this, because you absolutely need to know, where do you stand? This is the first step in making a positive move toward getting out of this debt. www. I know you tell me all the time I don't have to say that.
I always say that.
Okay. Student aid, STUDENTAID.gov.
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 Yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful site. Go in, find out who your servicer is. That will lead you to a page to see what your current debt structure is and get you enrolled in your payment plan, and also to see if you're eligible for any of the income-driven repayment plans that are available. Okay, families, finally, parents. Many of you signed for co-signing on some of these loans.
Plus loans?
The plus loan.
Either co-sign or plus.
Plus, exactly. Okay. Demand the information from your children as to what's owed. Because if you co-signed or you took out some loans and they are not paying those loans, this is going to impact you. Particularly those of you, no matter who it is, but your credit ratings, etc., demand the information. You cannot wait for it. I know we want to try and make sure that everybody's being treated like an adult. This is an adult thing.
Right.
You have a co-debt. You have a co-debt. There are some things that you may want to consider also, though, in how to get out of your side of the co-debt. Give us a call, 315-930-4499, 315-930-4499. Well, George, at this point in time, I think I've given everybody something to chew on, to think about, okay, some action steps to take. So at this point in time, I will say our plate is full.
Vicki Brackens is the president of Brackens Financial Solutions Network, LLC, and a registered representative of LPL Financial, member SIPC. She is America's money maven.